Ani and Miigwech for attending the 2022 First Nations Public Library Week digital programming, which is offered by Ontario Library Service. My name is Dina Nebionaquit, and I am one of the First Nations consultants on the Ontario Library Service team. First Nations Public Library Week started in February 2000 at the request of Ontario First Nation public librarians. Throughout the last 22 years, this program has grown and evolved, but the initial goals have remained the same: to celebrate and promote Ontario First Nation public libraries and increasing the awareness of First Nation peoples and cultures past and present. This includes celebrating and supporting on-reserve and urban Indigenous library patrons through relationship building and culturally specific initiatives. All librarians are welcome to reuse this resource, which will be found on the First Nation Public Library website year-round. I'm happy to moderate today's panel entitled Fishing Stories from the Res. This panel brings together two fishermen and one fisherwoman carrying on the land-based traditions in their communities. I will start today's session by asking each panelist to tell us their name, where they're from, and where their library is located. So let's start with Brian Monague from Kettle and Stony Point First Nation.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Brian Monague. I'm an elder from Kettle and Stony Point here. Our First Nation is approximately 2 by 2 square, confronting Lake Huron. And I have quite a few stories I could tell you all, regarding fishing, hunting, gathering, it's but it all goes together like your hands, okay? And our elders do a lot of things that they've done, like they practice medicines, and like Rachel Shawkins, and there's a few others around here that did basket making, just for example, the ash boring beetle. It's wrecked an awful lot of black ash in our area, and you can't get good black ash anymore. It's a thing of the past. It's gone. Well, however, I couldn't make a basket if they paid me to make one, but I can sew a net, and I can make traps. That's all I can tell you. Anyways, I'm proud to be on this forum here today. My good friend from Walpole Island and this lady here from Golden Lake. I'm really I want to hear what each and every one of us has to say about the surrounding areas, like what's happening in the lake. There's algae bloom that's happening out there, and that's making our nets all dirty. A lot of people don't understand that, but when you set them nets and they get caught in that bloom, you can't hardly get them nets clean again. Anyways, I'll let someone else carry on, because I'm just like my wife said, I'm just like I don't know, I talk too much. But anyways, I just wanted to share that with you all. And
Kwekwe, Bojo, Kinawea, Amber, and Indigenous, Pikwakanagan, and Donjaba. So hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Amber. Our internet here is a little, likes to pause out. So if you can't hear me, just give me a little wave so I don't keep talking. So I'm a youth here from Pikwakanagan. I grew up on the land since about I could walk. My dad's family, they're settlers here. So I was fortunate to have access to a farm growing up. So that's where I had most of my experiences being out on the land. My dad's family, they love to hunt and fish. And so that's really where I spent most of my time. The last couple of years, I've been kind of reconnecting to my Algonquin family and trying to be more mindful about when I'm harvesting and fishing. So about 3 years ago, I harvested my first moose, which took me down like a crazy journey trying to tan the moose hide. So I've done that. I share what I know here within the community. Doing that has made me, it's opened a lot of other doors for me. So I really take like food sovereignty. I try to take it very seriously in my life. I think it's important. So I set nets as well. My grandpa was trying to get me out like 2 years ago. We got to do this. We got to do this. And at the time I've never even heard of that before. So we're situated on Golden Lake here. So we were setting for whitefish. So I have a little bit of experience with that. And yeah, I'm happy to be here and to learn from the other folks here on the panel. So miigwech.
Well, my name's Rocky Sands. I'm from Walpole Islander, Bkejwanong. Reserve here, we down in southwestern Ontario, about 20 miles across the lake to Detroit, Michigan, and grew up here all my life. And ever since I was a little boy, all I wanted to do was hunt, fish, and trap. Nothing else mattered. School didn't matter. I got in a lot of trouble for that. I started hunting professionally when I was 11 years old, and it just has been a great life to be able to enjoy where God put me to make a living and to enjoy doing what I do. And I'll get to the fishing part in a little bit, but hunting season's coming and we're getting ready for that right now. It starts in 2 weeks. And Amber, I've never ever shot a moose. And I would love to do that sometime. And I just have to put so much stuff on hold because, I can kind of see the end of my trail, and there's a lot of things I want to do yet. And as for my friend from Kettle Point, and I met him a while ago, and he's a fantastic man, full of wisdom in the avenues where he has walked, and I'm grateful for him. And as for I forget her name. I'm at the age now where I forget names, and it's Amber. And I'm going to personally thank you for doing the stuff what you're doing, because this is necessary to get this out to people, to let them realize, hey, there's opportunity here to keep what we have. There's opportunity to pass on what we know and to get it documented. It's absolutely necessary. And as for the fishing part, yes, I've netted, but now I just mostly fish by rod and reel, and I've caught lots and lots of fish. I think I caught close to right around 5,000 perch this year alone with rod and reel, which and I can send you pictures of that, and it's really something. But as my friend from Kettle Point has said, he said it's changing. I'm driving almost to Detroit, Michigan in a boat to catch perch now, where they used to be all over in our waters at one time. And I believe the algae bloom has a lot to do with that. I've seen those big blobs come floating along, and over the years I've noticed what takes place and with the Phragmites, I see that part. And as we go through, I know this is just introduction, so I'm going to pass this back to you. I've always wanted to fish. And back when I was a boy, my dad worked, and we didn't have lots of money. We're boats, fish hooks and different things were really an option. We had a lot of fish worms around, so we could dig those. And I remember when I would just we had sticks with just a string on, and we'd run to the river and have a bent pin on there, and we would try fish that way. And but there was no barb on there to hold the worm on, because the fish would just grab it and he'd take off with it. And I don't think I ever caught a fish with that kind of rig. And I'd have a piece of stick tied on there for a bobber. And but you know, it was fun. It was exciting to do that. And then I think about when my dad would, in the winter time, would pick me up at school and he'd say, come on, he said, we'll go spear pike. And so he would take me and we would go out to the along the rivers, and they'd have a little shanty there, and there was a big hole cut through the ice, and he would had a spear, and they would take these type things and they would have them on a string, and they would jerk it, and it would swim around a circle under the, you could see it was like watching TV through the ice. And then when the pike would come in, then he had a spear, and that was weighted, and he would just kind of drop it, and he'd try hit him back the neck, so they would just stiffen out if the spine was hit. And then we'd take those home and clean them up, and my mom would fry them up, and oh, what a treat. But it was cold, and it seems like the winters aren't getting as cold around here anymore. Not like it was back 60 years ago. We're about the St. Clair River would freeze solid, everything would. And now, but we don't have that anymore.
I can go back to when I was a young fellow. That's a long time ago now. But anyways, we had these little, just like what Rocky said, these little minnows. They just went around in a circle like that. You had to dig a hole in the ice, and put something dark over top you, and you just put that decoy down there, and it danced around in a circle, and you had to be ready with a spear. Well, a lot of people were really good at spearing fish, right? When you spear that fish, you don't waste anything on it. If you get a pickerel, you cut the cheeks out of it. My mother used to just fry that up. Oh, she would really make them fish unbelievable. Them little cheeks are just like, oh, just. And sometimes you get big pike that come along. Once in a while, them pikes, they take your decoy on you. They grab it, eat it, and they're gone. That's the only thing about fishing through the ice. There's another way you could fish through the ice too. You just put a net through the ice. What you do is use a long pole and just push it along, make another hole, push it along till you got about 100 feet out there, and you just leave it overnight. Next morning you come along and you pull that net out, and you have all kinds of fish. That's the way things used to be. But everything is, the whole freshwater ecosystem is changing. I can tell you that. And it's we could probably have a good idea what's happening in our area if we watch the monitoring of the ballast water when they dump their ballast water in our freshwater system. Because I believe we got to start protecting things for our generations that are forthcoming. That's really important to me. Here I go again, talking too much. There you go. Miigwech.
I have some questions about smelts. So here in Pikwakanagan, we're struggling right now with our walleye population in the lake. And the ministry, they talk about not wanting to stock the lake with trout because we have a lot of smelt. So as far as I'm aware, smelts, they're not native here, are they? Smelts?
I believe they are.
Okay.
And when I was a boy, we would go down to Lake Erie.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we'd go there for. We'd go to net smelt, and they do migrate through the St. Clair River here. But it's not like it used to be there, where there was just literally millions of them. There's not that many anymore. And nobody goes and nets them how we used to, where we would as you said, where you would walk out into the water with boots on and swing the nets. I remember the fires on the beach and all that when we'd go get them and bring home buckets of them. And but that's really changed. I don't even hear of anybody doing that anymore. And as I talked about the pike fishing, the spearing, they outlawed that. Now you can't do that anymore. There's no spearing of pike allowed, and we probably can do it here on the island or on the reservation.
I can remember when we used to go down to the creek down there, when the leaves just start budding, that's when they come in. You go down there with a little dip net and you just one sweep across the bottom and you fill the 5-gallon pail up. Now that's how they were, all kinds of them. But all of a sudden, you know, they just start disappearing and all of a sudden they're gone. Once in a while you get smelts in your nets when you're out the lake. Then we used to go down a beach over there and you just use a seine, you know, not a big seine, just a small one. Just go out there and make sure your partner isn't clumsy with waders on, because once you fall in there, the water is cold. But anyways, we used to get all kinds of smells. And what we do, we'd have a little cooker there, you know. There'd be women there too. They would be cleaning the smelts, you know, taking the guts out and putting them right in a pan. And boy, were they ever good when they're eating right on the spot like that. Thank you.
A youth group from Ottawa, and they were smelting, and they were cleaning the smelts using like a real little paring knife. And I was watching it online. They're using this little knife, being real delicate, cutting their belly, their heads. And I just messaged them. I was like, you guys should use scissors. Like when I was growing up, we always use scissors. You cut the head off and you cut the belly and you just pull that out.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh yeah, thanks for the tip. That's what we're gonna do. If they didn't post that video, I wouldn't have seen it and I wouldn't have been able to give them that little tip. So
They came down here to go smelting with a community member and they just loved it. I wasn't around, I was gone, but they came back the next night. But it's interesting how you guys say, you know, you're seeing a decline, and like over here where you're just like have so many smelts, it's causing like other problems, you know.
I'll tell you, our lake is one of our most sacred things that were given to us. But we're supposed to be the keepers of the land and water. But we got to make both the provincial and federal government aware that we know what's happening out there. You know, they don't want to listen to us. They don't. But we're talking about the future and well-being of our band members, you know. To me, that's really important. Yeah. And the one thing that's going to happen to us, and we're probably going to see it in our own time, is these carp. These carp that escaped from the Mississippi River, and supposedly we're supposed to be stopped by this electrical fence. Never worked. Nature always has a way of overriding anything, you know. And as soon as Asian carp get into our waters, they're going to breed with the other carp, and you're going to have, they're just eating machines, eh? Rocky, you probably seen that movie down there and where they're catching those Asian carp, eh? Just jumping right out of the water at the motor or boat when it travels through the water. But you know, I think it's really important that we keep an eye on these ocean-going vessels when they go travel through our freshwater system. We got to keep an eye on the regulations, because when they dump their ballast water, bang, there's another exotic species. The diaphoria is gone from Lake Huron. That's what the whitefish, that's what their diet consisted of. And there's a lot of things that are happening out there that shouldn't be happening. And it's all because of this ballast water. You know, probably your chief and council could ask for that. I don't know whether they can get it or not, but we've got to protect our waters. You know, after all the gold and silver, uranium is all gone from the ground, the most precious thing that we're gonna have is water. And I say that with sincerity too. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Another thing I heard too, my mom used to work in like lands department, so she would hear about all these studies. They're studying the turtles, they're studying all these things. And I guess when a lake is going through something and it's like dealing with pollution or changes, it's the smaller creatures that will be impacted first. You'll see it in the smelts, you'll see it in like the frogs, especially anything that like lives in the mud, like all those creatures will kind of just like not want to live there, or you won't see as much of them, or they won't be as healthy. And then it just like is a really fast progression to like the whole lake getting sick. So it's good to keep an eye on the little creatures because they're the ones that are being impacted first.
I agree with you on that. And back here we had clams like you wouldn't believe, thousands and thousands of clams. And when, you know, I'm talking 50 some years ago, and they were big ones, and people would go get them, and they would get seaweed and they would cook them. But now if you find a clam, or see a clam trail, that's really something. From literally, I'm going to thousands and thousands to maybe just a few in certain spots. How things have changed over the years, you know, on Walpole Island back. I'm going to say when I was a boy, and that's I was born in 51, and so there was no moles, there was no possums here, because they got rid of them all. As soon as they'd see them, they would destroy them. And we're on an island, and so but now we have possums all over. We have moles and different things through here, and people don't realize those weren't here. They were taken care of for reasons. And but nowadays it's changed, where people think that they're cute and they want to protect something that is actually destroying things. You know, a possum, how many bird eggs will that eat in a year? How many different things will that take care of? And I remember walking through a field with my dad when I was a boy, and he was walking along, and a meadowlark flew up, and he said, "It's around here somewhere." And he looked around, he found its nest. There was 4 eggs in there. He took 2 out. He offered me one. I shook my head no, and he threw them in his mouth and he ate them, and we walked on. He said, "Always leave some." And he was teaching me things in a different way, and that's how it has to be. We have to always leave some. But if a possum came along, he wasn't going to leave 2 eggs there. He was going to take care of the whole thing, and the mother, if he could catch them.
A lot of things that are missing today, and it's because of sprays. Like your pheasants are all gone now, eh? You don't see any pheasants anywhere. It's because of all these pesticides and stuff that they spray along the creeks. I know we were in council in Bob Brissett, and they used to always come along and spray along that creek. After a while, there wasn't anything alive in that creek. No crayfish, no minnows, no nothing. They all died. So we had to stop them guys from coming in and spraying alongside of our creeks, because they were killing everything.
Walpole Island here was one of the only reserves where the southern quail were located. And when I was a boy, there was literally hundreds of coveys of quail, and the pheasants. In fact, my mother, when I'd go to school, she'd give me $1 and she'd say, go to the hardware store after school and get 6 shells. You could buy, they'd break a box of shells and you could buy 6. And she said, after supper tonight, go shoot pheasant. So we'll eat pheasant tomorrow. That's how guaranteed you were that you were going to get something to eat off the land. And so that's what I do. And then I think I was about 14 or 15 years old. I noticed a massive decline in the quail and the pheasants. Because before the first snow, when you'd go out, you would just see so many pheasant tracks. It looked like you're walking around a chicken coop yard. And all of a sudden, all that was gone. And what it was is that's when they came up with the pellet fertilizer, because the pheasants and quail have gizzards, and they would eat those pellets thinking that was gravel for their gizzards to grind up the food, and that was actually ruined the egging process, and it would kill the birds. And so now we were practically, and they caught on to that probably about 10, 15 years later. But I'll see the odd wild pheasant around here now, but now we're just overrun with coyotes, and we don't even see foxes around here anymore because the coyotes have killed them. And it just is, it's just such a weird, crazy thing we're going through. And because farming here is big business on Walpole Island. And where do they pump the water? They pump it into our marsh area, which in turn will affect the muskrats and different things that take place there. And I could talk a whole bunch on that topic alone, by decisions made beyond our control in major cities, about people talking about how you shouldn't do that kind of stuff, and how that harvesting things was part of our culture and who we are. Before there was I'm going to say this candidly, before we really knew that round rolled.
This is going to be hunting related, but it all comes together. But yeah, so about the processing the moose. So when I harvested my first moose, I was with my brother. My brother's an avid hunter, and he guides me, he teaches me. Like Mike, I said before, my grandpa has some physical disabilities, so he's pretty well limited to the truck. But it was actually moose hide tanning that really forced me to learn how to skin and quarter the moose, because I was getting all these moose hides from people and they were just full of knife marks. And so it actually, I'm really happy that this came up, because I would like to hear your guys' experience. But these are my own thoughts. These are my own this is stuff I've came to conclusion with just by thinking about the old ways, and thinking about how we would have been doing things before we had, winches and 4-wheelers and trucks. And so, I kept on receiving these moose hides, and they were just full of knife marks. And I actually, I networked with some Cree people. And, I met this guy online, and his aunties are 90 years old, and they're still doing moose hides. And, I'm over here, and there's nobody left here doing that work. And it's really hard to learn, if you don't have someone teaching you hands-on. So he says to me, because I kept asking him, how can I get a moose hide? How can we skin the moose without, all these knife marks? Because what my family does is they gut the moose, and then they drag it out, and then they hang it if the weather is nice, with the hide on. And so when I'm sharing that with him, he's like, well, this is what we do. So when they harvest a moose, they skin it there, they quarter it up there, and they pack it out. And that knowledge, that was lost in my family. We didn't know how to do that. So he's like, I'll help you. So he ended up taking pictures of every part of the process for me. And, he's telling me, you can do this. You can do this with one other person with a knife and a hatchet. And I did it I didn't use a hatchet. I used a sawzall, like to get through the ribs. But, you know, I did that all with my auntie Dale Benoit, and me and her, we did that with a knife. And we skinned half the moose. We left the guts in, we skinned it. We took the arm and we took the leg off. We took the back strap out. And then we popped into the guts and we let the guts come out, took them all apart, got the tenderloins in there, rolled it over, skinned the other half, same with the arm and leg. And we did that all. And by the time my brother came back, you know, he's like, holy crap. So, and we packed it all out like that. And, you know, if I didn't have that Cree guy share that with me, I'm not sure like I would have been able to do that myself and know that I can do that myself. Because that's a big thing. You can pull the trigger and, you know, you can get the moose down, but, you know, the work doesn't really start until after that point. So, you know, for me now, at least I know if I needed to by myself with one other person, I can do that. And not a lot of our youth can say they can do that. So I think education is really important, and, you know, finding people who want to share, because change is hard. You know, I had a hard time even within my own family letting me try this different way because they're doubting all the time. You know, they're like, I don't know, like, this is how we do it. But I really had to fight my way in there to let them, like, let me try. So I would be interested to know, like, what other First Nations people are doing or what they did before we had all these, you know, winches and trucks and stuff, because it's a game changer. But yeah, miigwech for listening.
In our area, there are a lot of deer. I think there's something like 500 taken off a year here.
Wow.
And it's like when all the men here would be hunting together. Maybe we didn't get along at certain times, but when it came to hunting, we had to work together. We depended on each other. It would be like when we're walking out with full packs, we walking through the swamps and that we would take turns leading. One guy would lead, he'd get tired, the next guy in line would lead, and that guy who was tired would get to the back of the line, and by the time the trail was done, you'd have a good walked on path. But it was always the ones that were ahead, who knew the land the best, who would lead and go forth like that. And you know, we really did depend on each other. And even now, and I know my friend from Kettle Point will verify this, you know, maybe you didn't get along with the neighbor or somebody down the road, but if they were in trouble out on the lake, we went no matter what. And that's just how it is. Back in when the fur market was good here on Walpole Island, I don't think there was a case of diabetes in a man. And when the market went, that's when things start changing. Because the men would be out there working from daylight till dark hunting, and not just a few of us. There would be just about every man on Walpole Island would be out there doing that. And it was a good, healthy living. To, you know, and people have to realize, when you're a hunter, you're not going to come home with something every day. You leave in the morning and you get home in the evening. Now and then your backpack was lighter because you ate your lunch, and yet there was other days you come in and you could barely pick up your pack, and you know, and it averaged out. That was the life of a hunter.
There's one thing that you really got to watch for out on a lake, and that's the two sisters. You know what the two sisters are? Two sisters are one wave that comes right behind the other. The one wave has got you pushed down in the back, and the second wave is going to take you down. There are a lot of things that can happen out on a lake. There's freak waves out there, rogue waves they call them. They can come from any direction at any given time. That's the most dangerous one. And the water, you got to watch out for them water spouts too. Water spouts are just like mini tornadoes, eh? And if you get caught in them, you're in trouble. I make a joke out of that once in a while. My wife, I got a wife that loves me very much. I don't know. She deserves an award for putting up with me for this long. She can sing gospel. You know what? When I try and help her sing, the dogs start howling. That should tell you something. But anyways, I'm very, very happy. Well, I'm getting to be one of the oldest ones on First Nation down here now, but I think stories like this should go on, just to let our younger generation know what's coming down the tubes and what to watch out for. And Cliff Manass, he could tell you the same thing too, from Amber, from your First Nation. I worked with him for 20 some odd years. And it's very sacred, our knowledge, The government is really out there trying to find out what we know, eh? But we can do it in a good way, so our younger generation will prosper from it.
There's a world out there that's crying desperately for our help to get it, get stuff going. In life, you're going to face opposition. No matter what, you're going to face it. You're going to be handed crap that you don't want. And what I've learned in life, when somebody hands you a bucket of crap, you pour it around your feet and use it for fertilizer so you can grow stronger and to even become a better person or a better tree, I'm going to use, because that'll help you grow even further, whereabouts the birds of the air can come and nest in your branches, or the wild animals can come in and rest in your shade. And to realize this stuff, we have to get this message across. And I believe we can do it. And this is a start of it, and to open people's eyes to it. To be able to partake in this type of thing is really an honor, a necessary honor.
Things have to get back to where they used to be. When I say that, I mean people go out and help one another.
Yep.
Through sickness and health and well-being. When I'm talking about well-being, I'm talking about food for the cupboard, wood for the stove, just things that a lot of people take for granted, eh? But if we went back to those ways, everything would kind of heal itself. Caring and giving.
Miigwech. I think that's a good point to close the session on, that going back to helping each other out, because we're in a relationship with each other, all of us. Even though we all just met today, I just met all of you, we're in a relationship together, and we were before. Hopefully more sessions like this happen, where we just get a chance to talk and be ourselves. And that's how we're going to learn. And I hope libraries can be a supporter of that. So I'd like to say Chumigwech to each of you, Rocky, Brian, Amber. So nice to meet each of you. I know you have some beautiful communities, so everyone have a good fall harvest. Lots of work to be done now. Just starting.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Chi Miigwech, Miigwech for sharing, your life experiences. It's been really humbling to listen. So,
well, everyone have a good day. And I think there's more of these meetings that should take place. That's how we learn off one another. Miigwech.